Millions of miles from home, we have finally found intelligent life with the courage to contact us and the will to annihilate us.
Here they come! Get out of here now!
We're under attack, so we need retrieval now. Fire! Kill them all!
From the director of Total Recall and RoboCop.
You wanna live forever?
Starship Troopers.
Welcoming to the show. Welcoming back for that instance for Cam's show is Josh Henson from Action Movie Book Club.
Thank you for having me. Last time was a blast, and oh man, we're doing Starship Troopers this time.
We're doing Starship. Not Jefferson Starship, just Starship Troopers. And we got Tabby Gray's welcoming to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Excited.
And from Films at First Sight, Joe Ferry.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Would you like to know more about this incredible cast?
Absolutely, because I know nothing about you. You guys are talking about lawnmowers pre-show. I'm wondering what area of the country you're in.
I'm
Slovakian.
How did you know?
Last time Cam was on our show, I think we talked for like almost 3 hours. My co-host had to jump off, and then him and I just talked for like another hour.
We talked about cancel culture. We talked about other crazy scandals. I lost track of how many "fuck you, Jared Leto's" that emerged from our list, and followed by who's the best Spider-Man and all this other stuff.
Yeah, we went off the rails pretty hard.
We usually do that after we record with somebody. We're like, oh, dude, let's just hang out and shoot the shit.
Hang out, man. Give me a...
Once my co-host isn't there, I go off the rails pretty fast. Like mom and dad left.
Violent TV was. Speaking of violence, yeah, we're in the thick of it. We're talking Paul Verhoeven. We are talking about his satirical adaptation of fascist novelist Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers.
Verhoeven is my favorite director of all time.
He is definitely pretty cool because he and Joe Dante don't seem to get it as mentioned as much as, say, Sam Raimi or Tarantino or some of these other guys who do all these over-the-top movies. And
I mean, he's the master of satire.
And his Dutch movies are very brilliant. They're so worth seeing, especially Flesh and Blood, which makes fun of medieval, sword and sandals epics, and plenty of his other World War II movies, Soldier of Orange, all brilliant. And The Fourth Man is a brilliant psychological thriller that would put any giallo to shame. It's just so ballsy and mind-blowing. But he's just another one of these. Is like after he made this, people still wanted to just kind of pistol whip him and mock him for making Showgirls and Basic Instinct. And it's like, no, this is a return to his Total Recall and the first RoboCop, where he's, instead of doing a cyberpunk necessarily kind of movie, he's just making fun of just corporations. He was making fun of the Gulf War at the time. It's just
such an underappreciated, and I don't think people understood it properly when it came out.
It wasn't well marketed. I looked at the trailer and you think instantly it's going to be a Star Wars type movie. I mean, there's even a shot that makes fun of a Star Trek episode when they're coming out of like one of the bunkers, and he's making fun of everything from World War II movies to John Wayne to just other kinds of patriotism and Rambo and aliens. It's like, yeah, everything you want is here. But like you say, is, I mean, the fact that he cast a bunch of soap opera stars is like, I want to show how over the top this is and how anyone else in this would be like a Tom Cruise or a Julia Roberts, you know?
Yeah, because he was making like $150 million B movie, like on purpose.
And on purpose, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Is he just chose to complete B cast? Like they're hot, but they're not Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt hot.
Mm-hmm.
It works perfect for that melodrama, though.
Right? Because then they can do the over the top reactions that he's looking for, and it is. So did you guys kind of have trouble watching this as well? Is like you got teased for liking it, or people, you were watching it with a crowd that didn't understand it?
My co-host absolutely hates it. So anytime I want to watch it, he's like, "I'm gonna go to bed." I was like, "All right, go."
This is like a top 5 all-time movie for me.
I actually
love this movie.
I got my brother to be a fan of it. I even pitched it to him. I'm like, it's like Platoon meets Top Gun in space with some other humor in it. But I took him to see it in a theater back in 2016 because Riff Tracks was doing a live riffing of it. And that worked even more. That kind of actually gets people in the mood, even though they're technically making fun. You know, it's the Mystery Science Theater guys making fun of a satire. And I was like, I was just glad to see it in HD, and he loved it instantly. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you watching that cartoon show this was based on, and like a loose continuation of, and it inspired Halo and everything." And that movie was pretty clever and funny. It's like, yeah, it's a hell of a time.
I love this movie when it first came out for very different reasons than I love it now. Like, I didn't
for all the
understand everything.
Yeah, it was titties, wasn't it? It was the titties.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't hurt.
And then busted. It is wild though. I've seen so many other people like get it for the right reasons, but they watched it so many times they pick up on all the other stuff. So it just shows you, it's like everyone's kind of slow to just kind of warm up to it. I remember digging the effects, but being disappointed. But then I realized, wow, that author who came up with the original idea, he's like a Nazi sympathizer. Meanwhile, this movie,
it's some fascist ideas.
Yeah, this movie is making fun of what Nazis that America has become in the future, fighting a war that's not even really a war. It's like any asteroid that basically hits the Earth, we got to blame it on the giant bugs because there's just no other scapegoat, man. We can't do that, and it's pretty dated pretty well. I still think that there's some great shots. Even the TV edits of this are pretty bizarre because they kill some of the content that would be too extreme, and then they put in some content that originally got an X for violence, which is just so weird. You don't know if it was just too much or what, but every actor who's worked on it has appreciated it, not been ashamed of it. They know what it was about, and I was already a big fan of Dina Meyer and Jake Busey and other things, and I think this is interesting how, I mean, you know, Casper Van Dien never got beyond kind of Bruce Campbell level of just starring in, you know, just movies and making big use of the chin, but
he was in the third one, and he did some of the voices in the animated movies.
Yes, he does. He gets to come back as Rico, and he was going to do it anyway. I mean, he had to. He came back for the video game, and it is kind of wild how I've had to rewatch some of the sequels way more times than they were worth, and the second one is just very confusing because it just seems very limited by its low budget.
Come on, you apes! You want to live forever?
Our war is going better than ever, but we need heroes. We need you. A bold new strategy calling for total war against the bug on every front.
They're building up. They're all around us.
Fall back! Where's my free outpost, Corporal?
It's here! What kind of bug is that?
Kind of gets inside and takes over.
Getting the vision.
The whole species, they have a plan.
All personnel to the perimeter!
They're coming to wipe us out.
Service guarantees citizenship. Would you like to know more?
And the third one, they actually had the nerve to actually bring back the writer and just make fun of how more radical the Federation has become by this point.
Today we have suffered defeat. But I'm confident that where there is defeat, we will make victory.
Do you have what it takes to be a citizen? The Federation needs you. Enlist now.
Yesterday, I dropped troopers into a combat zone.
Join up today.
How high you fly is up to you.
Do your part.
Join the mobile infantry and see if you've got what it takes to be a citizen.
Johnny Rico.
Saddle up, troopers! Grenade!
Lola Beck.
Hold on!
Dix Hauser.
The bugs find this place, they knock out the fleet. Next stop, Earth. There goes the neighborhood.
There's a long war ahead.
Incoming! Bugs!
And we need you now.
Kill them!
We're being tested. Loyalty, intelligence.
Starship Troopers 3, Marauder.
Let's go crack a planet.
It's a good day to die.
They actually did the mech suits in the third one.
They actually made use of the mech suits and made fun of how everyone's basically becoming a commander just because all the other dipshits who are now like lieutenants and admirals are dying. Yeah.
See, I didn't make it past it. I didn't make it. I made it like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes into the second one, and it was like, I'm tired. I
confused in tone. It was
the second one is fascinating. That was the only one I hadn't really seen, and I watched it.
They're using laser guns and they're ineffective, but you don't know if that's for budget reasons or what. And then they bring back the gal Brenda Strong, who was like the main commander, is a different character, and it's just like,
oh yeah,
what are you doing?
I think I made it that far.
It's not a terrible idea because it was basically a horror movie. Like it starts off like an action movie, shoot 'em up, but then it's like pod people, like the bugs are taking over people's bodies and like infiltrating, and it becomes this like weird horror movie.
The John Carpenter's The Thing, but it's one of those. It knows what it wants to say. It doesn't know necessarily how to organize it. So it's just one of those, again, Sony doesn't know what they're making, so they promote it as an action sci-fi B horror movie, and you're just like, well, it's kind of making fun of, here's if in the future the war is going to get even more worse, everyone's basically going to be abandoned, and there's going to be one ship that's still working that you got to get working.
It's a bad movie, but as I was watching it, the script is actually pretty good.
The cinematography, just no money. Shit.
Shot horribly. It looks like crap, but the script, like the lines weren't delivered great because they didn't get very good actors, but the script itself was kind of solid.
Right.
Do you know who directed it?
Paul Tippett, acclaimed effects artist on the first one, as well as he did the Ed 209 from RoboCop and the Walker effects in the Star Wars sequels.
Phil Tippett?
Phil Tippett, yeah.
Oh, okay,
he just came out with a Shudder movie, but
yeah.
I think it was a mercenary job for him, or he knew what he wanted to say, but he just wasn't able to compromise with his vision. I don't know.
I mean, they did a smart thing where the CGI was bad, but most of it was in the dark. And then as long as there wasn't light on the bugs, it looked okay.
Yeah. When it was
also the first 5 minutes of the movie were just shots from the first movie.
That always helps.
I was like, oh man, this looks really good. Oh no, that's because it's just from the first one.
It's a trashy
Friday the
pleasure.
13th that part 2'd your ass.
Part number 2.
Half the movie, just half the movie is the entire first one.
I don't know if you guys have seen the sequels to Darkman, but the first 8 minutes of the second one and the third one are just the first 8 minutes of the first movie.
Yeah.
Trying to recap. Quotes,
even though Liam Neeson isn't in it.
Yeah, and it's pretty much a who's who of leftover Sam Raimi actors, and basically why Universal liked the cells on those movies. So they're like, hey, how about we get the Darkman replacement guy and have him be the Mummy?
Yeah. The second one's actually a lot of fun. It's ridiculous, but it knows it.
Yeah, the villain comes back somehow.
Return of Durant.
Yeah, part 3 is Jeff Fahey. But yeah, I mean, similar kind of genre where the idea was just so prosperous among cult filmmakers. And like you guys have been saying, is like at face value, everyone thinks it's kind of like Evil Dead, where it's trashy for either the right or wrong reasons. But really, it is actually a pretty well thought out thing. And it's just one of those.
Well, Raimi's a lot like Verhoeven, where it feels trashy or this or that or easy to do, but it's not something you can replicate easily.
You can't replicate it easily. And like you say, there's so many layers to all the gory gags and the jokes. And it's not easy to explain to everyone at face value, because you're always going to get those, squeamish crowds or just idiots who walk into the theater not knowing what to expect. And it's like, if you want everything handed to you on a plate, then just stop right now. It's not that kind of movie.
I mean, if you look at like RoboCop, which Verhoeven did,
yeah,
Ivan Kershner did the second one. I mean, he did like Empire. He's a competent director, and it just isn't. It's just missing that thing that he has.
Yeah, it's like it's creating the gory action, but it's missing the heart and soul, and even just the mocking commercials and corporations.
It's the satire that. It's unmatched. He's so
unmatched
at it.
Still fun though, and maybe was lifted up by how bad 3 was.
I actually like 2. And 3.
Yeah, 3. I know what you mean. Yeah, 3 has some good ideas, and also once again just bad Sci-Fi Channel effects. And I think yes, the first one has just been so hard to replicate, and then it's just so wild how the animated movies are serious and yet they're very impressively done and kind of like faithful in a way, if that makes sense. So it is like you say, it's an uncanny kind of premise. It's just so cool that they gave it a shot at. Someone made that kind of movie. Edge of Tomorrow, I think, kind of took a few ideas from this, definitely, by making fun of time travel and typical, future Marine, and even the expectations of this kind of a blockbuster.
That's a great movie, by the way.
Oh,
very underappreciated.
And I'm even afraid that if that sequel that they keep claiming is coming out ever comes out, it'll totally just be related in name only, like some of these movies. So like Joe, Josh, and Tabs have all said here, listeners, it's just a one of a kind, just kind of cult movie that has earned its cult fandom pretty naturally. There's so many other people who they take it so figuratively. It's like, why are they using weapons that don't work? Why are they nuking bugs that are just going to go underground? I'm like, that is the point. They're making fun of how ineffective this whole squadron is,
and the hubris of humanity at this point.
And well, so let's go around. But why do you think, even though many have even just established it in the first beginning of the movie, and just with the propaganda ads and the hysterical newscasters saying inappropriate things, it's almost like a South Park moment, and somehow people just find it still too dumb for their own taste, or just don't get it? And do you think the trailer that had Blur's Song 2 playing over it just did too much damage, just made people think, hey, we're seeing a Star Wars epic?
Okay, when this came out, I thought it was just going to be an action movie, just like space Marines fighting bugs,
mindless. Yeah,
and
like Predator.
Yeah, but in space. Well, there's a lot more going on in Predator. We get into Predator.
I know.
Yeah, I just thought it was just going to be a shoot 'em up, gory, fighting aliens, whatever. And that's how I took it because I was like 13 years old when this came out. So
totally.
I didn't completely understand everything that was going on, but I enjoyed it for that reason.
1000%. Tabs and Joe, why do you think you still have to explain this to certain people? They just find it mundane and generic, just people fighting bugs in space. They think that's all it is.
See, I think, one, I grew up on like 50s sci-fi, and 2, that trailer got me to sneak into the theater to see it when I was 14. Twice.
Oh, twice. I'm impressed.
I'm jealous you saw it in theaters.
I have I got a good/bad streak with Verhoeven where I did the same thing with Showgirls right around this time. Shouldn't have been in theaters for all of that. Life changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so campy that people have a hard time discerning the subtext.
Or even the degrees of camp. Like there's movies that are dubbed even camp that are technically so bad they're good movies, and it's like this isn't even remotely a so bad it's good movie. It's literally, or trashy for that matter, it's just an over the top movie. But
yeah,
like you say,
but it's all on purpose.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. I guess not enough people were watching replays of something like Forbidden Planet or The Day the Earth Stood Still, so they're not even getting that kind of style. Their parents weren't showing them.
What it boils down to is people are stupid.
Well, I know that. I'm just trying to understand where the stupidity and ineptness originated.
I can answer that one.
Yes, Tab.
Because I mean, I'm not going as deep as you guys to this movie because I thought it was fun. I thought it was stupid. It's the slapstick comedy behind or in front of what they're trying to portray and what they're trying to put out there. I think it's fun. The quotes, the chemistry between the characters, like just the stupid shit, like how are you going to get your arm cut off and then go back and get your legs cut off?
Yeah, the sergeants are abusing them.
Exactly.
They're making fun of Full Metal Jacket type movies and war crimes. The one guy who's played by this one just very talented guy who was on The Wire and Courage Under Fire. I love how I think his nickname is
Seth
Sugar.
Gilliam.
Yes, Seth Gilliam, great actor. And I just love how he's making fun of the jarheads. He's like, I gotta keep killing bugs, sir. He just stays behind with the grenade. But yeah, I don't know why this wouldn't appeal to even a John Waters or Tarantino crowd. It's got that same kind of in your face mentality, as well as just, I think even Tim Burton crowds would eat this up. It's so apparent about what it is, and yet that just wasn't enough for certain people. But who knows, maybe watching it on TV I'm sure does some damage. This is not a movie you want to watch edited. It's gonna kill some key subplots and other subtext. They kind of took some license with Rico. That's technically a South American name, and they're just making fun of it. He's like, yeah, you're from Buenos Aires, but you're not.
Yeah, I think he's Filipino in the book.
Yeah, and in the first anime they ever made about it. But I mean, you guys even brought up some other good points on how just movies evolve over time. And yeah, at face value, just like some of other Verhoeven stuff, you're responding to some of the sexual and violent material that's advertised, and it's like, but it's not that kind of movie, actually. It's just, and it's also kind of it's just very rare that we see these kinds of movies being done nowadays where they were sold on the gimmick. No one knew who any of the stars were. And now you're still seeing them at conventions promoting these same movies over 30 years later. I've seen some great cosplay communities, and for years, people on Quake or what's the other one? Not Far Cry. The other Half-Life would do funny video game mods where they would make the aliens look like the bugs from Troopers. So there's so much cult fandom to go around. And it seems like Josh was saying earlier, this is a hard to replicate kind of thing too. More like it became an infestation.
Well, it launched an entire video game series. If you look at the Earth Defense Force series, which has probably 6 or 7 iterations, and is the mindlessness without any of the political or like humor
undertones. It's almost kind of like Babylon 5, and like Josh and I were saying, Space Above and Beyond is like, people were looking at that as just mindless, Star Trek knockoffs, and it's like, no, really, there's a cruel mythology to each of those. That The Expanse has been a great example of how people,
that's so good.
Yeah, people can take a popular book and actually make it a digestible, bingeable work of art that is more than what it seems at face value. And it's not easy to build a world. It requires effects, but it requires the right kinds of minds to actually storyboard and say how many effects shots need to actually make the film to create that world, in addition to the editing and music and tone. Yeah, it just can't be replicated. And like you guys have said, it knows how long to go. And Denise Richards has often been criticized as not being much of an actress, but they use her the best in this to just make fun of how she's kind of a inexperienced soldier on her first dangerous mission. All the other guys are not the same by the end of the movie. So to call it just stupid is really just a total understatement. It's like they're showing how they pretty much have become everything they didn't really want to become. I love how Michael Ironside's college professor is like basically he's not really a professor. He's basically a recruiter. And then I love how just as they're getting great voice, great persona, diverse guy who we've covered on the show. And it's just funny how instead of being a mentor, he's just basically a soft giant who gets killed terribly in battle. It makes fun of tactics and everything. It's making fun of like again, I think they said when they first march out of that one abandoned base that was making fun of something like the Green Berets. It is making fun of just the whole just abandoned post and unwinnable wars and total clusterfuck of just politics and strategy. It's the whole movie is basically making fun of a inept chess game. It's just it all ricochets back and forth. And again, if we can quote a movie, I'd hardly say it's a waste of time.
You touched on world building, and that's something Verhoeven does so well. And he does it in little things like the news clips. Like the news clips. Those first news clips, and it's like, I understand this world. Like I get it. Like this is I'm in. Like I get everything about it. Or like the scene with Michael Ironside and Rico in school. It's like, oh, I get it. It's all just like
he makes fun of sex. He always uses that. He always uses that as a plot device in all of his movies, making fun of how everyone's got that on their mind, and yet by the end of the day, they're just doing it just because out of habit versus it's not no actual love to be found. And even makes fun of the shower scene. Everyone just would look at that, it was like, oh, it was trashy, gratuitous. Is like they were making fun of just in this future, it's a co-ed shower and everyone's just pretty much one of the boys. He does
gratuitous stuff for a reason. Like his violence is way over the top, but he does it because it should be horrific when someone gets shot or something like that happens to them. Like you should feel something when that happens. So totally. He goes way over the top, and he does that with not just the violence. I mean, the sex and everything.
Even with that one thing where they show the
point,
Right. Well, how about when the college professor snipes one of the guys being preyed on by the bugs? It's like, why did you do that? Oh,
yeah. You could just shoot the bug. You
could shoot the fucking bug, but
that fits with the movie.
Yeah, it's just showing how when people are brainwashed and just have no way to end any kind of cycle of violence, they just kind of are just along for the ride, and
they're all expendable too.
I love how they're totally. How about when they're first landing? It's making fun of how they're just all puking nonstop. And the one guy who's been here for a while, he's like, I know how to take the hill. And he just blows up instantly.
I love how the film crew, like the news crew, is there.
He's
and they're
still
like reporting
filming the
on
horrific
site.
Shit. Yeah.
It's just they're just so overconfident and they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
He grabs him and he's like, get out of here. You got to get out of here. Come on, go. And he's like, oh.
Why do you still got the feet on? Oh, shit.
Well, I thought the shower scene's really interesting because most of the movie, super horny.
Yeah.
Like
they're making kissy faces on a Etch-a-Sketch digital on the beginning.
You get all of those actors buck naked in a shower, and there isn't really much talk about sex. They're talking about war. They're talking about aspirations.
And they don't care.
See, that's the point. That's the point of
it. That is the point. Yeah.
No doubt.
It's so great.
You guys have all hit on that, how they could do better stuff. and by the time they gain a greater position, they don't even know how they got there. Perfect casting for an earlier role for Neil Patrick Harris, to cast Doogie Howser. Is like
Neil Patrick Harris.
He becomes the head of the Nazis, basically. Is like, I thought he was the free-minded guy who didn't want to go to war. Oh, that's right. They recruited him because he was a scientist. That's how they got him. And,
he's a psychic.
And like you said, is like Rico's dicking around in class, and here he is. He's like the lieutenant by the end of these movies.
He's only there because he followed his girlfriend.
He was good at killing
him at all.
Right. He's even listed among the people who died in the initial assault and yet somehow survived. And I think they said his healing factor was making fun of the Star Wars movies that Luke's in the back to tank or whatever.
Yeah, it was very back to life. Yeah.
Fun fact about the shower scene. I read on IMDb that whenever they went to go and do it, everybody was like, no, I'm not going to get naked.
The movie crew was also,
Yep. And so they're like, let's put on a fashion show without clothes on to make them more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, if we're going to do this, then you got to get naked. Well, the cinematographer ended up coming from a nudist colony. So he's like, all right, and just dropped trowel and started shooting.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
You so couldn't do it nowadays. There'd be people storm. Oh, okay. You could
I
do
would
it.
film an entire movie naked. All right, let's go.
Instagram live stream, baby.
Bingo.
Watch me whip it on TikTok.
I mean, with if any of y'all have seen Verhoeven's latest Benedetta, he hasn't shied away. It's really good.
I bet it is.
I haven't seen it yet either.
I saw his last movie. I forget who it was. I think it had Charlotte Rampling in it. It was so good.
It did, yes.
It was making fun of video games that inspire violence and how the victim in this case is the CEO of the developer company. It's just so many layers, and it's just such a shame that he had such a shitty time just working on Showgirls, and Hollow Man was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I'm so bummed he just said fuck off to Hollywood. I love him so much. I want him back so bad.
Everyone does, and I like how other people I think Neil Blomkamp's a good example with District 9, Elysium, and there's so many other guys who are doing genre pieces that are echoing some of these same kind of multi-social commentary movies, and they can sell it to anyone. People who want to see it on a mindless level versus a diverse, mind-blowing level. There's something for everybody in these kinds of movies, and
I mean, he makes movies that you look at and you go, there were no notes on this.
Right.
He did exactly what he wanted to do, and no one told him anything.
The producers,
if they did, he didn't listen.
The producers were just happy with the last set of residuals they got from his last free pictures. They didn't know what made them work.
I just love a movie that you can tell no one touched. Like, whether it's good or bad, you can just tell it's the director's vision.
And there's still enthusiasm, as opposed to, when you see other famous filmmakers like Brian De Palma, and you're like, man, this has none of the signature style.
Right. Well, that's what you can feel. It's like they care, and there's something put into it that
no one put a gun to their head and said, you must crowdfund this piece of shit you don't want to actually make, but you're contractually obligated to do.
I love things that shouldn't exist. Like I reference this all the time, like The Lobster. That shouldn't exist.
Too good to exist.
It just, there's no reason that should exist. And the first two acts are great. The third stinks, but I don't care. I love it. It should not exist.
Well, neither should Woody Allen, but that's a different story.
I was to say, are we naming movies that shouldn't exist?
Go for it. The Room, Tommy Wiseau shouldn't exist, but it exists.
Nobody wants to hear my opinion because
yes,
murdered.
I do. Tab. Come on, Tab.
No, I'm interested.
Come on, Tab.
I just met you.
Hereditary.
That's a good example. Ordinary
Definitely
People
one
meets
of them.
Hellraiser. Yeah.
The movie was completely shit until like the last 20 minutes. And that was the best part, is when it was over and the credits were rolling. I was like, I am so glad I didn't waste my money in the theater on this one.
See, I don't mean bad movies. I mean just like bonkers, like
crazy.
Yeah, just
I'm going either way on this.
There's nuts. like The Lobster, like or if you see in the Northman,
Tusk.
Like Northman shouldn't exist. That was like a $70 million indie film.
Tab, you both mentioned two good ones on that. Tusk and the Northman. Yeah, that I don't know how either of those got made, other than that someone made use of their lower budget and made a bigger than usual.
My theory is the director of the Northman went in and he was like, "Oh, I'm just going to say I need $70 million," and they're going to counter with like 20. And they said yes, and Snap called in. It's like, okay,
let's start spending.
I'm going to make this insane movie.
Spend. Christopher Nolan, M. Night Shyamalan pissed us off, so we'll spend anything on the nobody.
Tusk spent the entire budget on the final makeup. That's it. Just the walrus makeup. Like everything else was trash, but the final makeup.
Connecting into that, who did the makeup effects for that? Robert Kurtzman, who worked on Army of Darkness and a bunch of other things, but he did my favorite movie that should not exist, but it does, and it got me back into horror, and that is Wishmaster. Also from the same year.
Wow. That got you back into horror?
Yes. I was just so I was so tired of like the torture porn and the other just crappy ghost movies that were coming out. And I was just like, see, this is a return to Gremlins, Evil Dead type territory. This is Maniac Cop weird zaniness. I love it.
Okay.
That's so funny. That was another good theater experience for me when I was young.
So many people shat on that one. And that's another one like Starship. It has such a low user score, and Starship fortunately does have a better, higher user score. But yeah, Wishmaster still has like a 14% on most movie review sites and a high user score, and it's like, well, I'm siding with the users.
If I could just throw out there too, is like the watches now of, I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 36, and it came out when I was 11, and I really wasn't, because it was PG-13, I wasn't allowed to go. But when I got of age and it came on, I watched it and I loved it. And I think that's this age now to where people really like watching it, is because we either didn't get to watch it because we weren't old enough, or
there's that barrier. And then, like you say, not having anyone else around who's watching it or a fan or who can tell you about why it's popular. This was before
we didn't
the
have
internet.
the internet.
Yeah, and even then, it was still limited to just message boards and people saying this movie sucked donkey balls.
Yeah, just creeps.
Yeah, but before we had all the culture wars on Facebook, it's just like, this was a word of mouth, and that's where all the great cult movies do. That's why people get into anything, whether it's Crybaby or Flowers in the Attic or just any other kind of crazy movie, trashy or not, is like, it's all about who just watched the shit out of it,
we also didn't have the streaming services back then. Like,
no,
I mean,
we didn't have
it never came on TV.
Just push a button.
You had to go to the theater. Exactly. And as I was going to watch it yesterday, my kid walks in and he's 8. He has his own podcast called the Legendary Gunner Podcast.
Nice. Runs in the family.
It does.
Family
awesome.
Podcasters.
Yeah. And he's a total nerd like my husband and myself. So he walked in and he's like, "Can I watch this?" I was like, "Sure, sit down and watch this with mommy. We're gonna watch this together." and it came to the shower part, and he goes, "Am I allowed to watch this?" And like covered his eyes. I'm like, "Dude, it's okay. Like, you're cool.
We're a European family.
That's
it's
so
all good.
Great. You're not giving any weight to these things. Like,
No.
I wasn't allowed to see any rated R movies. Like, they made it up. Like, they made it like that red button that says "Don't push."
Exactly.
That's all I wanted to do.
Push the button.
I could only watch R-rated movies if they were Monty Python related, but I know what you mean. It is one of those where it's just like, it'd be even funnier when you had other friends who were big film buffs and they had seen other movies you weren't allowed to see, and yet they knew it by heart. And
I had to sneak over to see Terminator 2 to a friend's house after school to watch the tape he taped on TV.
That's badass.
It was even the edit, but yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch anything.
I hear you.
I had a friend do that for Demolition Man over to my house.
Oh,
I love Demolition Man.
The TV edit is even more confusing. You're like, wait, what did they get fined for again? Oh,
that's another one that there's a lot more going on than just like a silly action movie.
That's a good point. It's on the surface, it looks like a Blade Runner, Total Recall type movie.
Yes.
And then, underneath it is kind of like Demolition. It's making fun of just a future where basically everyone gets George
Murder.
Orwell, murder or just violations for anything, like whether it's a simple, they don't even have speeding tickets now. It's you walked in a zone you shouldn't walk in, you're getting arrested.
And Taco Bell's the only restaurant,
right? And Arnold Schwarzenegger is president. Yeah, it's crazy. It's fun.
So I have a question, Josh. You said Verhoeven's your favorite director. Yep. What's your favorite movie by him?
RoboCop. That's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, I'm with that. He's definitely in my top 20, Verhoeven. And
actually, today I just wrote something about the boardroom scene.
So true.
that is the most upsetting and like impactful. That's the scariest scene in any movie I've ever seen, and it's still
right.
Is.
It's not even a horror.
I mean, I've seen Martyrs and Hostel, but that's the most upsetting scene of any movie I've ever seen.
Oh man!
Well, you lived through the Great Recession of 2018, so I fucking get it.
Oh yeah, true. True. Oh man, so
a good bug is a dead bug. I had to throw it out there.
Yes. Oh.
You're doing your part.
I did.
At least there weren't any Hannibal Lecters in this movie saying they ate their bugs with some fava beans.
Yeah. I'm surprised that they didn't actually go to that, where it's like, we're going to have a sustainable life where we're going to eat the bugs.
That is true. It's like there's no member of the team who's committing war crimes or a serial killer. They're just all just brainwash. Go die. Can you go die? Please go die. That's all they're doing. Go die, you poor bastard.
We just got back from vacation and brought a few presents back, and my son's eyes lit up as my daughter screamed because we brought back a lollipop for him, which had a real cricket in the middle of it.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
I had one with a mealworm in it for a long time. A friend went to Mexico and brought it back.
Nice.
I was like, hey, can I have this? Mom's like, no, it has a bug in it.
On a bottle of mezcal.
And you're like, that bugs me even more.
Right? Haha, but
I'm glad we were able to have a big giant chat about this. Most everyone else often just wants to just read off of IMDb like everything. And it's just like, we already know about this movie.
We have to talk about the animated show for children.
Oh,
yes, Roughnecks.
So I have to introduce this one to Gunner.
Oh, I thought it was like a fever dream from my childhood. I didn't think there's any way it existed. And I looked it up. It very much exists.
Prepare yourself for a cutting-edge new series, executive produced by Paul Verhoeven, the director of Starship Troopers, Hollow Man, Basic Instinct, and Total Recall. An Emmy-nominated sci-fi adventure featuring 3D CGI visuals and non-stop bug-crushing combat action.
No retreat, no surrender.
Roughnecks, Starship Troopers Chronicles, based on Robert A. Heinlein's classic sci-fi adventure novels and the Hollywood smash hit Starship Troopers. Roughnecks chronicles the exploits of Razak's Roughnecks.
Prepare to engage!
A ripped and ready teen infantry fighting an interstellar war to save the human race.
This hunt ain't over till the fat ladybug screams.
With 4 installments ready for duty, the Pluto, Tesca, Hydora, and Tophet campaigns, and 2 new installments coming to VHS and DVD in May 2002, the Homefront and Klendathu campaigns. Roughnecks fans can bring all the action home.
I think you're gonna want to get this on tape.
Roughnecks, Starship Troopers Chronicles from Columbia TriStar Home Entertainment.
What are you waiting for? A goodbye kiss?
Like randomly, Verhoeven is a producer on like random episodes. Like Clancy Brown comes back to voice his character. Like
I was just about to say that. Yeah, and
it's insane. I don't know how
for kids.
It's kind of good too.
It's pretty good, even though it had no business being good. It was just once again, someone knew how to translate it into a different medium because they wanted to continue it somehow. And
I mean, that was the time. Like growing up, I had like Terminator and Aliens action figures. I wasn't allowed to watch the movies. Like, why did those even exist for children? I don't understand any.
The 90s were that crazy period.
So weird.
they were giving movies to basketball players and rappers back then, and yet here they are making, even for Starship, they're making for PG level toys for kids that are based on an R-rated movie. Is like they were basically at that point they're trying to find a market for everything, wherever they could find it, even regardless of the tone or themes. Is like no one cared back then. Now everyone's like, you're not going to make your money back.
It's just so wild. I mean, I'm fascinated by it all.
I'm surprised there wasn't even any in-movie advertising for this, really. Well, I take it back. There is the AT&T, and there is even in the riff tracks they even make fun of. See, even back in the 90s, AT&T was dropping. Calls.
I'm reading my notes. When I watched the second one, I was kind of intoxicated. And
I started drinking 10 minutes in.
You both are very wise.
And as I'm watching the second one, like 10, 15 minutes in, I looked at Mike, my husband and co-host, and he looks at me and he goes, "This is where you ask your mom, I want to watch Star Wars." And she says, "We have Star Wars at home." Starship Troopers 2.
We have Star Wars made for $10 and free sandwiches.
Put it in the microwave. It'll be okay.
Put it in a microwave.
So good.
It's
wow,
5
that's
weeks.
Perfect.
Oh, and we got meatloaf, but it's 5 weeks past its prime. But hey, any meatloaf's better than no meatloaf. Hey.
That's the best description of that movie ever.
We have Star Wars at home. 20 minutes in, story sucks. Acting is horrible. Gunshots make up for the acting. Surprised I could read my handwriting.
The thing that drove me the craziest about that was the positioning of their guns. They're always like pointed up in the air, and the bugs were never up in the air.
It was a missed opportunity. They could have made fun of. All they could have done is maybe work in a line of dialogue saying, "Our training's gotten progressively worse, sir. All our trainers have been killed," and that would have been a fun fill in the blanks. Okay, they become more inept, but
I did love the lazy opening crawl.
Where they're making fun of.
That was so good.
Star Wars.
They're training to be Starship. They're training to be
Stormtroopers.
Stormtroopers. Thank you.
Yes, but that was what was also missing. They could have worked a little, breaking the fourth wall in there. They could have done something else. They could have said, "You are all red shirts from Captain Kirk's spaceship." You could have done.
It wasn't a terrible idea for a low budget, like capitalizing on a franchise.
It just should have been more.
I'm
gonna have to go back and watch it. Just sober as a bird. Just watch it.
I did used to find part 3 to be the worst, but yeah, part 2 I think is still the weakest.
Yeah, part 3 is not good either, but at least Casper's back.
He's back, but I think the second half just makes up for it. It's just the first half. That's just what's rough. That's what takes everyone out of the movie, because it just looks like a Sharknado type production at first.
Yeah, it's like it's trying to get on a handy cam or something.
Handy cam, and it's trying to get your attention. It's like had it just focused on that last part where they got to get in the mech suits and they're making fun of how the commanders are all being slaughtered, and just the people who've been making sense finally get in charge. That would have been the icing on the cake, but that's how it is.
Have you seen the animated movies?
Yeah. Have you guys seen them?
No.
Good.
Surprisingly better than they have any right to be. Just very intriguing, and made by a Japanese anime company. They were pretty
One
dynamite.
of them has a lot of nudity in it, actually.
Which one is that one?
I think it's called Invasion.
Okay.
I don't recall.
Yeah, they have shower scenes and doing it. And yeah.
Carmen's boobs are definitely bigger. That is for sure.
She's in that, and I believe there's just like an unnecessary shower scene of her.
There's never an unnecessary shower scene.
Yeah, what are you talking about,
Thank
Josh?
you.
We talk about Josh.
I like titties like the rest of us.
When you like this.
Oh,
sorry.
No, go ahead, Joe. Yo, Joe.
I hadn't seen the first one in so long that it was interesting going back.
Oh, really?
And we're talking like 15 plus years.
Oh, So you watched it completely different than you did that last time.
100%. And
nice.
I'm making note of actors and actresses. Even when I watched it yesterday, I made a note about the biology teacher being like, why does the fucking biology teacher look like Butterball, the fucking Cenobite? And then afterwards, I realized it's Rue McClanahan from the fucking Golden Girls.
Yeah.
It was the brain damage moment where like the top of my head blew the hell off.
But you didn't know that back in the day, though, when you were a kid. Like,
no, but I loved the Golden Girls even then. I just didn't realize they was really horny. So,
right.
Intrinsically, probably loved them.
Well, no, that's so true too. It is funny just seeing some of those 80s and 90s shows, what they get away with, and you're like, yeah, you can't talk that way nowadays on TV. We're just too insane nowadays. We don't know the difference between censorship and even just what's a no thing to talk about. Yeah, how dare we talk about anything that's in today's world? But I mean, even studying some of the other actors in the cast, I would light up every once in a while when I would just see him on a big giant program, like that dude, he's Rico's dad. That other teacher assistant up the.
Mine was Father Gabriel from Walking Dead. I was like, oh, look at him. He's a baby.
He's a baby.
And he's so little. Like, he was really skinny and he had like skinny arms.
Isn't that a natural progression, though? You go from killing bugs to killing gangbangers and stealing money to killing zombies as a priest.
So good on The Wire.
Oh, yeah. I steal money, too, if I was in that place, probably.
Yeah, him and Herc.
Oh, man.
And Dean Norris as well.
Yeah,
Dean Norris is fun.
Yeah.
Freaking Gerald Ford's son Steven is the guy who gets blown up when they first land. So I mean, he's been in a bunch of movies.
I always confuse him with the fucking meathead from Coach.
The guy who looks the SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Bobber.
Yeah, he does look like
or Patrick. Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick Star, who was on Coach.
Yep.
That he does look like that dude. And it's funny you bring that up because I know Patrick Star actor said when he grew up he wanted to be Elvis, and that's kind of what the character of Johnny Bravo was based off of. But I feel like that's just the genesis of this whole movie. All of these fuckers in this thing, they want to be Elvis. But if anyone who knows anything about Elvis, no, you don't want to be Elvis because fame and fortune will kill you, baby. And in this case, there is no fame. There definitely is no fortune. There is only
Zool.
Oh. Well, there's that and guts.
No, you guys invited me on. Just remember that one.
Yes, I did.
I am here for the comic relief.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of it.
So, do you think, other than the obvious fascism, because I mean that sucks that this movie.
No, man, I totally want to build an actual bug project. Oh yeah.
Shh, it's in my basement.
Well, do you think this movie predicted?
Does it purr? Go ahead.
Did the movie predict it breaking up with people on FaceTime?
That's in my notes too.
Yeah.
And he has everybody behind him, and she's like,
Yeah,
"This isn't
watch
gonna
it. And
work
it's
out."
like,
Ooh.
It's just in the form of emojis and everything now, but yeah, it predicted all the angry multi-video chats. Get off the other line, talking.
You don't need to see this. Just try to exit out.
Yeah.
And he can't exit.
The camera logs off, and they're trying to turn it off. Just in transmission.
Sexting in this movie must have been really uncomfortable.
That would be amazing if we looked up someone working at Samsung. Is like, where'd you get the idea? I was watching Starship Troopers.
Well, it was the future, but it wasn't live. They had to like record it on these little discs.
We'll do it live. Oh.
They have like these like watches or something that has like them pop up, and they're like super futuristic. I'm breaking up with you. Oh no!
Right.
They mastered interstellar travel, but they couldn't do FaceTime.
There you go.
Live.
So this predicted all the stupid gadgets that do exist now. This predicted cable TV. You know, back then they had Jerry Springer, but it's become way worse with Real Housewives and, you know, C-SPAN and just other crazy debates. Fox News, not C-SPAN, Fox News. But there are times where I'm watching C-SPAN. I'm like, this is a horror movie.
That's just our government.
This is our government, yeah. All the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, and it is also
British Parliament is a bit like scary.
Oh, totally. This predicted all the Jeff Bezos and Boris Johnsons. Totally, yeah. Maybe Elon Musk. You can't tell me he doesn't want to build flying bugs or
huge, giant, vagina-looking bug.
Yeah, totally. He'll do space travel for sure.
The thing that ate his brain, like, that was just a giant clit, right? Like, we can all agree on that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a total... That predicted GIF files before that was the thing.
Yeah.
Sucky dry.
I think it was more of like a vagina clit was a mix. Like, if you merged...
Kinda. I think that was deliberate in one of the commentary tracks. I think they did
that definitely has to be deliberate.
It has.
Cronenbergian sex organ.
That's actually my favorite part of the riff tracks is during the fort battle. They say David Cronenberg presents A Bug's Life. And during the army training sequence, they do go, the Toy Story army is attacking. Oh no. So it is definitely taking all the elements of the age appropriate blockbusters and then injecting all this, borderline X-rated violence. Oh man, it's great. Surprisingly, I do not think it is as violent as most blockbusters, and that's not because I'm callous like the idiots in the movie. It's mainly just green blood. It's just, yes, what is disturbing is just all the messaging and how it's basically showing all the recruitment and how all these people are just becoming killers without any purpose. So I think that's just it. It's like, if you're going to show someone this, at least make sure they're in on the joke and not just, drunk as fuck.
Yeah, as far as Verhoeven goes, this is one of the more tame violence-wise.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when it happens, it happens, but
it's gonna happen. Might as well get used to it. Might as well get comfy.
Well, he could have even spun a little bit into that early CGI, and he didn't. He stayed true to practical effects, like through. And I think
that's so true because
they're so much more impactful.
Anyone else would have been like you say, they were utilizing Jurassic Park where they used models in addition to and animatronics in addition to CGI. But yeah, like you say, anyone else at that time was often blowing their load all on the effects, and then the
CGI
story would
still
get lost.
holds up today, by the way.
Yeah, it still holds up.
Looks good.
Yeah, he brought in top of the line guys to do it, and like you say, he made sure it was in the key shots where he needed. I need an asteroid. I need a giant explosion and nuke scene here. I don't, the rest of it is just going to be, animatronics and other stuff. And like you say, effects is expensive, and it was definitely expensive back then. And I think they were shooting it in like New Mexico, I think, parts of other areas.
That sounds right.
Yeah, New Mexico and Arizona, I think.
Okay, so there you go. And I know all the actors described literally the film set looked like a boot camp, so they didn't really have to worry about getting into character.
It was 120 degrees. They had like 50 pounds of weight on them and heat stroke and all of that.
Mexico's a horrible place.
Yeah, and there was a great GalaxyCon interview recently, which had Dina Meyer and Jake Busey and a few of the others on there. And
I love Jake Busey.
Oh, he's so good in this.
He's great in this, and
I loved him in The Frighteners. That was my first introduction.
That was my intro to him.
Fucking love The Frighteners.
Then Enemy of the State, and then seeing this and the other ones back to back is like I got used to him real fast and liked him. But they didn't worry about whether the movie was going to be a hit or not. Everyone else does that, and
they just made it.
That's Verhoeven. He's just doing what he wants to do. And again, just like Mystery Science Theater and South Park, don't worry about anyone who doesn't get it. Just do it. Yeah.
Instead of being angry that someone else did it and you had that idea first.
Clear vision, coming off the commercial bomb.
Yeah. Anyone else would have been shattered or been like, I guess I'm going to need to take a decade off or go back. He's like, he waited till he literally wasn't getting any good projects and then said, fuck you to Sony.
Well, it's crazy he still had that kind of autonomy to do his own thing after that. You'd think there'd be a lot of
I think it ate him up.
Cooks in the kitchen,
He just negotiated a breast count. That's all. Right.
just changed employers is all he did. He just said, okay, I guess I'll work at Sony. Fuck you, Karolko and MGM.
Well, I think Karolko was like, I mean, that was on their way down.
Right. And I love how they acted like he bankrupted and was like, Cutthroat Island bankrupted him. This was
exactly. Yeah. Thank
like
you, Rennie Harlan.
Fifth to last movie before. And
the way they
I saw that movie on
movies.
VH1, so I didn't have to be distracted by any of the other, uncut content. I was like, oh, I see what this is going for. It still sucks.
Yeah,
it was a good
it's not
example
great.
of where his satire, he knew what he was saying, it just wasn't landing. It was too distracted with the content. Crazy ass movie. This has been so great having all freebie on here. Blew it out of the park on this one. So I'm just going to circle around on where we can find you on social web. So Tabby, what are you doing? Multifamily podcast.
So with my first podcast, it is Happy Hour Podcast. You can find everything on, thank you, on Linktree. It's Linktree/Happy Hour Podcast 3. The H in happy is capital. The rest is lowercase. Of course, with Happy Hour, Gunner, our son, is kind of like under our platform as well.
Not responsible for any intoxication.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then this will be my first plug for this. So I have started a podcast with two lovely ladies from What I Had Heard Was and Designated Quizzers. We've created a podcast called Ladies Night. So if you go out for happy hour, you got to go out for ladies' night.
Nice.
It is all an interconnected podcast as opposed to we're all on the same fucking platform.
Exactly.
Gotta stay on brand.
It is.
If you're gonna say go to Uncle Jimmy's house, still got to say for Aunt
Tracy.
Aunt Tracy's Thanksgiving meal. Yeah.
Exactly. Where we discuss women and our problems, our issues, what's going on. We just dropped our first episode this past Friday, and tomorrow night we are actually recording our second episode, which is going to touch on the subject that has hit the US this past Friday.
Nice. So mixing some current happenings and
yes,
girls' table. That's great.
Absolutely. And drunken and high shenanigans. That's what we do.
Even better.
We get drunk, we get high, and we just shoot the shit. No filter, fucking raw.
No rating.
Don't care.
That's great. I stopped giving this an explicit rating years ago. And it was so funny. We started cursing during our Muppet episode, and I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to put an indicator. This is an R-rated chat. This is an R-rated Muppet chat, guys.
The Muppets brought it out of you.
The Muppets brought it out of us.
And I do give that warning. I do give the warning at the beginning. It's like if you're sensitive to
trigger warning,
certain women things, like I know some guys are like, ew, periods. And I'm like, you don't have to listen.
Yeah, there
but
you
I'm
go.
Gonna say it.
Stop getting offended when you know everything is up for grabs. Okay, so Joe, as Jimi Hendrix says.
Do not look for my wife. I'm just gonna say that right now.
What?
It was a joke because joke. Hey Joe, he killed his wife, and therefore I don't want to go to jail.
Jesus! Oh my God, dude, that almost sounded like voyeuristic. It's like, yeah, you're doing your best, like, Liam Neeson. You go after my wife.
You got really worried there for a second.
I didn't know how to react. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I was making.
I was like,
imitating a lyric. I'm not. Jesus, I'm not getting that heavy. Okay, anyway. What podcast would you like to promote?
So, I'm here from Films at First Sight, which my co-hosts Graham and Caitlin should be ecstatic hearing the lead into this. And topically, my co-host Caitlin has a monstrous menstruation themed podcast. Plug It Up is her podcast.
That is absolutely brilliant. We need to have her on then.
Yeah. And yeah, so the three of us at Films at First Sight, we like to, like, as any good podcast, it was created because we wanted to talk movies with our friends. And you have those conversations where you're like, wait a minute, you haven't seen this? How haven't you seen it? And so we celebrate that.
It's always
and
someone.
Exactly. And so we cover mainstream, weird. Like Caitlin took a little bit of a sabbatical, and what happens when it was me and her at that time, and all of a sudden within 2 episodes we were covering Pink Flamingos and in X-rated territory, and so she had to come back to bring us back into the fold. Yeah,
like
we
a party.
cover all genres. It's a lot of fun. We have a new side series actually coming out next week called Short Ends, and we're going to be doing shorts and feature reviews, but they're going to be within 5 to 15 minutes, and it's going to be kind of like one reviewer, one host, not looking at the actual experience, but reviewing the actual movie.
There you go.
We like to dive into all of that.
Well, and that's why different movies. Oh no! There's a Twitter propaganda page for Join the Mobile Infantry.
They actually loved that they hit the heart button on my post last night on Twitter, and we've been talking. I'm like, I love you guys already. This is awesome.
Free likes. You're looking for certain keywords. Also, that sounds great because, there's so many people who will quote movies, but they haven't actually seen it. My sister was summarizing Seven the other day to my folks who hadn't seen it. I'm like, you don't know. You don't get to sum it up if you haven't seen it.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? It's just so amazing.
We want to leave it open, and it's
and at the same time, there's
check it
people.
out.
Yeah, there's people who haven't seen Heathers or Forrest Gump or Lawrence of Arabia, but you got introduced to them somehow. So
on the Denise Richards tip, so she makes Starship Troopers, then Wild Things.
Oh wow!
And then I had never seen Drop Dead Gorgeous, and so we did that for the show.
I think it's streaming, so that's why it's become even bigger lately.
That movie's fucking hysterical.
Yeah, Allison Janney's in it.
Uh-huh. We're a big fan of Allison Janney.
CJ.
And yeah, and was that
CJ? West Wing reference, right?
Yeah, and I am. It sounds busy as always. I have another podcast called No Film Left Behind, and we cover forgotten films, transgressive films, cult stuff. Our first episode was on nunsploitation.
Oh, nice! I got to get you in touch with my buddy Lee Russell. They Must Be Destroyed on Site.
Please do. Yes, I would check that out.
From Dawn of the Dead. So yeah, you guys seem like you guys would totally co-anchor each other's work.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. See, you can find Films at First Sight at Films at First Sight, and No Film Left Behind at No Film Left Behind on Twitter, Instagram, and wherever you find your podcast.
Nice. Josh Henson, what crazy streaming action movie will you tackle next that isn't Cobra?
Well, Independence Day is coming up, so
it's got to be on HBO Max.
We're doing the Patriot.
24 hours.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah, do 24 Redemption followed by the Patriot.
And that'll be our 99th episode, so we're coming up on our 100th.
That's great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so we do a show called Action Movie Book Club where instead of reading, we watch a movie each week.
Yeah,
and then go through it beat by beat. And
sounds like my kind of book club.
It was so wild.
Well, you'll have to come on then.
It was so wild how you didn't have a movie last time, so then you guys were like, I'm going to surprise the other with our favorite action movie star. JP chose Kurt Russell, you chose Michael Biehn, and you're just like, which leads us to Tombstone, which we'll be covering next week.
Oh, that movie's perfect, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That was our most recent one that's out.
It's like one of the few Westerns that like everyone has seen. There's plenty who haven't seen Friedkin to Yuma or the original High Noon. You're just like,
so great. Val Kilmer's amazing in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we do that once a week. Comes out on Mondays. You can find it anywhere podcasts are found. We're Action Movie BC on Twitter, Action Movie Book Club on Instagram. I also do some writing for a horror website of all things called SwedishNerd.com.
You also do some sports blogging also.
Yeah, I'm in between of those at the moment.
Oh, good.
And then actionmoviebookclub.com, I do some reviews up there from time to time. And we do streaming show or like live watches on YouTube on a horror friend of mine, Eric Doyle. He's First Class Horror on his YouTube channel. So you can check that out if you'd like.
Yes. Love horror movies, so I'm totally checking that out.
And him and I are putting together another show, but we've recorded a few, but it's not out yet.
And if you want to hear him laugh,
that will
be check his show out.
I have a good time.
You have a great laugh too, my dude. Thank you all. This was a party, which is what I asked out of every podcast.
So much fun.
We do the deep dives, and then we do the fun get-togethers. I love this, and then there's other ones just like, let's boogie, let's just party.
That's me all the time. 100%.
All the time.
I wouldn't be Happy Hour podcast if I wasn't.
There you go.
Live up to it.
You are She-Ra meets Johnny Bravo. Joe is guy smarter than every scientist on those crime procedurals, and Josh, I'm just going to say,
the Fantastic Four right now, though.
Ooh, let's do it.
Might be.
I mean,
we're not the porn parody version, that's for sure.
Well, let's not count us out.
There's still time.
There's still time. Rule 34.
I don't even boxed in.
Oh, but we're already boxed in, my dude. That's how Zoom looks. Boxed in, typecast.
Just had to make a box joke. That's all.
Out of the box.
It was right there.
You just let it out of the box. Just boom. Box.
The worst thing you could be asked in that moment is what's in the box.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
John,
I don't know, man. I still kind of prefer what's in the box over would you like to box.
Yeah, I mean, it's Gwyneth Paltrow's head, so I'm fine with that.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
On that like 20-year-old movie.
No. If you haven't seen that movie already by now, then fuck you.
Once you hit a decade, all bets are off. Like
the whole basis. Yeah.
You get 3 months to see a movie.
Yeah.
Right.
After the 3 months is over, fuck you and your spoilers. Like it's gonna be spoiled.
Exactly. And
agreed.
And just saying I know everything about it because I've heard the plot twist is like, no. You that was earned. That was earned. Oh God. Thank you all. This was a bright, shining light in this gloomy time. Let's keep cheering up everybody on our podcast.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us on.
Keep checking us out there.
Yeah,
anytime.
It's a blast.
We'll have you back.
We're doing Space Above and Beyond.
Yes, but I'm gonna also
buy the DVDs after this, right when I get off.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're gonna ask Tabs what she wants to do next, and we're gonna ask Joe, well, what's not in a box that we can watch?
Bet.
A box set. Does that count? Oh,
I have very random movies, so
we like random.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, to quote MXC, don't get eliminated.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.